30 days from the time it left Dawson, the saltwater mail, with Buck and his mates at the fore, arrived at Skagway. They were in a wretched state, worn out and worn down. Buck's 140 pounds had dwindled to 115. The rest of his mates, though lighter dogs, had relatively lost more weight than he. Pike, the malingerer, who, in his lifetime of deceit, had often successfully feigned a hurt leg, was now limping in earnest. Sol-leks was limping, and Dub was suffering from a wrenched shoulder blade. They were all terribly footsore. No spring or rebound was left in them. Their feet fell heavily on the trail, jarring their bodies and doubling the fatigue of a day's travel. There was nothing the matter with them except that they were dead tired. It was not the dead tiredness that comes through brief and excessive effort, from which recovery is a matter of hours, but it was the dead tiredness that comes through the slow and prolonged strength drainage of months of toil. There was no power of recuperation left, no reserve strength to call upon. It had been all used, the least bit of it. Every muscle, every fiber, every cell was tired, dead tired. And there was reason for it. In less than 5 months they had traveled 2,500 miles, during the last 1,800 of which they had had but 5 days' rest. When they arrived at Skagway they were apparently on their last legs. They could barely keep the traces taut, and on the down grades just managed to keep out of the way of the sled. "Mush on, poor sore feets," the driver encouraged them as they tottered down the main street of Skagway. "Dis is de loss. Den we get one long res." "Eh?" "For sure. One bully long res." The drivers confidently expected a long stopover. Themselves, they had covered 1,200 miles with two days' rest, and in the nature of reason and common justice they deserved an interval of loafing. But so many were the men who had rushed into the Klondike, and so many were the sweethearts, wives, and kin that had not rushed in, that the congested mail was taking on alpine proportions. Also, there were official orders. Fresh batches of Hudson Bay dogs were to take the places of those worthless for the trail. The worthless ones were to be got rid of, and, since dogs count for little against dollars, they were to be sold. 3 days passed, by which time Buck and his mates found how really tired and weak they were. Then, on the morning of the 4th day, 2 men from the States came along and bought them, harness and all, for a song. The men addressed each other as Hal and Charles. Charles was a middle-aged, lightish-colored man, with weak and watery eyes and a mustache that twisted fiercely and vigorously up, giving the lie to the limply drooping lip it concealed. Hal was a youngster of 19 or 20, with a big Colt's revolver and a hunting knife strapped about him on a belt that fairly bristled with cartridges. This belt was the most salient thing about him. It advertised his callowness, a callowness sheer and unutterable. Both men were manifestly out of place, and why such as they should adventure the north is part of the mystery of things that passes understanding. Buck heard the chaffering, saw the money pass between the man and the government agent, and knew that the Scotch half-breed and the mail train drivers were passing out of his life on the heels of Perrault and Francois and the others who had gone before. When driven with his mates to the new owner's camp, Buck saw a slipshod and slovenly affair, tent half-stretched, dishes unwashed, everything in disorder. Also, he saw a woman. Mercedes the men called her. She was Charles's wife and Hal's sister, a nice family party. Buck watched them apprehensively as they proceeded to take down the tent and load the sled. There was a great deal of effort about their manner, but no businesslike method. The tent was rolled into an awkward bundle 3 times as large as it should have been. The tin dishes were packed away unwashed. Mercedes continually fluttered in the way of her men and kept up an unbroken chattering of remonstrance and advice. When they put a clothes sack on the front of the sled, she suggested it should go on the back, and when they had put it on the back and covered it over with a couple of other bundles, she discovered overlooked articles which could abide nowhere else but in that very sack, and they unloaded again. 3 men from a neighboring tent came out and looked on, grinning and winking at one another. "You've got a right smart load as it is," said one of them, "and it's not me should tell you your business, but I wouldn't tote that tent along if I was you." Undreamed of, cried Mercedes, throwing up her hands in dainty dismay. However in the world could I manage without a tent? It's springtime, and you won't get any more cold weather, the man replied. She shook her head decidedly, and Charles and Hal put the last odds and ends on top the mountainous load. Think it'll ride? One of the men asked. Why shouldn't it? Charles demanded rather shortly. Oh, that's all right, the man hastened meekly to say. I was just wonderin', that is all. All. It seemed a mite top-heavy. Charles turned his back and drew the lashings down as well as he could, which was not in the least well. And of course the dogs can hike along all day with that contraption behind them, affirmed a second of the men. Certainly, said Hal, with freezing politeness, taking hold of the gee-pole with one hand and swinging his whip from the other. Mush! He shouted. Mush on there! The dogs sprang against the breastbands, strained hard for a few moments, then relaxed. They were unable to move the sled. The lazy brutes, I'll show them, he cried, preparing to lash out at them with the whip. But Mercedes interfered, crying, Oh, Hal, you mustn't, as she caught hold of the whip and wrenched it from him. The poor dears. Now you must promise you won't be harsh with them for the rest of the trip, or I won't go a step. Precious lot you know about dogs, her brother sneered, and I wish you'd leave me alone. They're lazy, I tell you, and you've got to whip them to get anything out of them. That's their way. You ask anyone. Ask one of those men. Mercedes looked at them imploringly, untold repugnance at sight of pain written in her pretty face. They're weak as water, if you want to know, came the reply from one of the men. Plumb tuckered out, that's what's the matter. They need a rest. Rest be blanked, said Hal, with his beardless lips, and Mercedes said, oh. In pain and sorrow, at the oath. But she was a clannish creature, and rushed at once to the defense of her brother. Never mind that man, she said pointedly. You're driving our dogs, and you do what you think best with them. Again Hal's whip fell upon the dogs. They threw themselves against the breastbands, dug their feet into the packed snow, got down low to it, and put forth all their strength. The sled held as though it were an anchor. After 2 efforts, they stood still, panting. The whip was whistling savagely, when once more Mercedes interfered. She dropped on her knees before Buck, with tears in her eyes, and put her arms around his neck. You poor, poor dears, she cried sympathetically, why don't you pull hard, then you wouldn't be whipped. Buck did not like her, but he was feeling too miserable to resist her, taking it as part of the day's miserable work. One of the onlookers, who had been clenching his teeth to suppress hot speech, now spoke up. It's not that I care a whoop what becomes of you, but for the dogs' sakes I just want to tell you, you can help them a mighty lot by breaking out that sled. The runners are froze fast. Throw your weight against the gee-pole, right and left, and break it out. Questions. 1. Based on the information in the first paragraph, which of the following aspects of the setting is most strongly emphasized? A. The harshness of the weather conditions. B. The length and difficulty of the journey. C. The incompetence of the dog handlers. D. The bustling atmosphere of a starting point. 2. Based solely on the description of the dogs in the first paragraph, which of the following statements most accurately reflects the likely cause of their physical condition? A. They have recently been involved in a fight with another team of dogs. B. They are suffering from a specific disease that weakens them. C. They have been working extremely hard for an extended period. D. They are not receiving proper nutrition to maintain their weight. 3. The passage mentions Pike, a dog known for feigning injuries. How does the author use the details about Pike to indirectly convey information about the overall condition of the dogs? A. It highlights a contrast between Pike's usual behavior and the severity of his current limp, suggesting the journey has taken a significant toll on all the dogs. B. It emphasizes Pike's weakness compared to the other dogs, implying they are all struggling but to varying degrees. C. It establishes Pike as a troublemaker who cannot be trusted, even regarding his physical condition. D. It introduces a light-hearted element, suggesting that even clever tricks can't save a dog from getting tired on a long trip. 4. In the second paragraph, what detail about the dogs most suggests their physical limitations are not due to immediate exertion? A. Their weight loss of 15 pounds. Line 3. B. Their overall wretched state. Line 2. C. The comparison of their tiredness to months of toil. Line 8. D. The description of them being worn out and worn down. Line 2. 5. How do the specific details about the sled's movement on downhills, as described in the passage, just manage to keep out of the way, primarily contribute to the overall purpose or effect of the narrative? A. Highlight the incompetence of the new owners in packing the sled. B. Indicate the dangerous conditions the dogs are subjected to. C. Underscore the heavy weight of the load the dogs are expected to pull. D. Reveal the potential for cruelty towards the dogs by the new owners. 6. What is the likely intention behind the driver's promise of a bully long res? A. Express genuine compassion for the dog's condition and prioritize their well-being. B. Trick the dogs into working harder despite recognizing their exhaustion. C. Project an image of caring to onlookers even if rest is not the primary goal. D. Reveal a limited understanding of the dog's needs and the severity of their situation. 7. What is the primary purpose of the line the drivers confidently expected a long stopover? A. Emphasize the animal's resilience despite the driver's lack of understanding. B. Reveal a disconnect between the driver's perceptions and the dog's physical reality. C. Create suspense about whether the drivers will change their travel plans. D. Highlight a lack of communication that will result in conflict between the drivers. 8. Which two stylistic devices are used in the sentence that the congested mail was taking on alpine proportions? Also, there were official orders in the passage, and provide the correct pairing of the device used in each part of the sentence, A. Simile, first part, and personification, second part. B. Metaphor, first part, and juxtaposition, second part. C. Hyperbole, first part, and parallelism, second part. D. Metonymy, first part, and understatement, second part. 9. What does the statement "since dogs count for little against dollars" suggest about how the dogs are primarily viewed or valued? A. Loyal companions deserving of affection and care. B. Highly valuable assets requiring significant investment. C. Expendable tools to be used and discarded as needed. D. Inherently dangerous animals requiring careful control. 10. What does the use of the idiom for a song in the sentence "then, on the morning of the fourth day, 2 men from the States came along and bought them, harness and all, for a song," suggest the price at which the dogs were sold? A. At a fair market price reflecting their working ability. B. For a very low price, possibly less than their actual value. C. To experienced owners who would appreciate their skills. D. Despite strong objections from the previous owners. 11. Based on the detailed descriptions of Charles and Hal, which statement about their characters is most likely true? A. Charles is a stern and experienced leader, while Hal is a quiet but observant follower. B. Charles puts on a show of toughness with his mustache, but lacks true resolve, while Hal's extravagant belt reveals his inexperience. C. Charles is a confident and decisive individual, while Hal's hunting gear suggests a focus on practical skills. D. Both Charles and Hal appear to be equally inexperienced and unprepared for the harsh. 12. What is the primary purpose of the descriptions in this paragraph, including the reference to the nice family party comment, ****? A. Optimism and hope for Buck's future under new ownership. B. Subtle foreshadowing of conflict and disharmony within the group. C. Relief that Buck and his mates are moving on to the next stage of their journey. D. Curiosity about the unique personalities within this new group of people. 13. What contrast does the passage Buck watched them apprehensively as they proceeded, carefully establish, ****? A. Mercedes' focus on comfort and the harshness of the environment. B. Buck's cautious instincts and the owner's impulsive actions. C. The driver's desire for speed and the reality of the dog's condition. D. Hal's harsh treatment of the dogs and Mercedes' misplaced sympathy. 14. In what way does the writing style of this passage suggest the narrator's probable characteristics or identity, ****? A. A fellow traveler observing the incompetence of the new owners with amusement. B. One of the dogs, giving an insightful animal perspective on the situation. C. A sympathetic outsider who disapproves of the owner's actions and choices. D. A strictly neutral observer reporting the events without any judgment or emotion. 15. What do Mercedes' words and actions in this passage most clearly reveal about her character or intentions, ****? A. A desire for control but an inability to offer practical assistance. B. A deep understanding of her brother's limitations as a leader. C. A frustration with the inefficiency of the packing process and a desire to improve it. D. A genuine belief that her input is useful despite her limited knowledge. 16. How does the presence of the three men from a neighboring tent in this sentence contribute to the scene or situation described, ****? A. Highlight the urgency of the situation, prompting others to intervene and help. B. Introduce a sense of community and shared experience in the harsh environment. C. Underscore the amusement of outsiders at the new owner's struggles. D. Foreshadow additional challenges or complications for the owners in the future. 17. What is the primary motivation behind the man's suggestion to leave the tent behind, as described in the passage, ****? A. A desire to avoid potential conflict with the new owners by appearing helpful. B. A genuine concern for the well-being of the dogs based on the amount of supplies. C. A hidden agenda of wanting to make the journey more difficult for the new owners. D. A belief that the owners lack the experience or supplies to handle such a harsh environment. 18. In this passage, what aspect of Mercedes' character is most prominently revealed by her dramatic reaction to a suggestion regarding the tent, ****? A. Fear of the harsh environment and a desperate need for comfort. B. Underlying insecurity about her ability to handle the journey. C. Desire to assert her dominance and establish control over the situation. D. Superficial concern with appearances, prioritizing image over practicality. 19. In "Oh, that's all right, the man hastened meekly to" this sentence, what does the man's response primarily reveal about his attitude or intentions in the given situation, ****? A. Concern for the safety of the dogs due to the overloaded sled. B. Secret amusement at the new owner's inexperience. C. Desire to avoid conflict and appease the dominant personality of the driver. D. Hopeful offer of assistance that is ultimately rebuffed by the dismissive response. 20. In the passage, what does Charles's act of attempting to secure the load with lashings but does so poorly most likely suggest about his competency or skill level, ****? A. Preoccupied with something else and not paying close attention to the task at hand. B. Inexperienced in handling sleds and unfamiliar with proper lashing techniques. C. Secretly resistant to the new owner's instructions and deliberately doing a bad job. D. Concerned about the safety of the dogs and taking extra time to ensure the load is secure. 21. How does the specific word choice in the statement, that contraption behind them, primarily serve its function? A. Highlight the speaker's genuine concern about the potential danger of the sled. B. Emphasize the sheer size and bulkiness of the overloaded sled. C. Underscore the speaker's doubt about the dog's ability to pull such a burden. E. Indicate the complexity of the sled's design. 22. What does Mercedes' intervention with Hal most clearly reveal about her attitude towards the situation? A. A lack of understanding of the necessities of dog mushing in extreme environments. B. Disagreement with Hal's harsh treatment of the dogs. C. A hidden agenda to undermine Hal's authority. D. A secret admiration for Hal's leadership skills. 23. What do the contrasting viewpoints of Mercedes and Hal regarding the dogs primarily reveal in the passage? They're lazy, I tell you, and you've got to whip them to get anything out of them. A. The different personalities and approaches of the new owners. B. A clash between emotional attachment and practical considerations in dog mushing. C. The confusion the dogs are experiencing due to the change in ownership. D. The inexperience of both Mercedes and Hal when it comes to handling dogs. 24. Mercedes looks at the onlookers for support. Her expression, at this moment. What does Mercedes' focus on the onlookers suggest about her intentions or motivations? A. A desire to impress the onlookers with her knowledge of dog mushing. B. Validation and reinforcement of her own moral position against animal cruelty. C. Hope for help or intervention from the onlookers. D. A fear of being judged by the onlookers for her inexperience. 25. What does the description of Mercedes as a clannish creature in this context primarily imply about her personality or behavior? A. Prioritizes loyalty and protectiveness towards those she considers her own. B. Tends to be secretive and distrustful of outsiders. C. Relies heavily on the opinions and support of others. D. Prefers to work independently and avoid social interaction. 26. What does the metaphor anchor suggest about the sled in the sentence, the sled held as though it were an anchor? A. The sled provided a sense of security and stability in the harsh environment. B. The weight of the sled was a minor obstacle for the powerful dogs. C. Difficult to maneuver and control, hindering their progress significantly. E. The sled was a vital tool for survival in the frozen landscape. 27. What is the onlooker's most likely immediate impulse, given that he is clenching his teeth while trying to control his anger? A. Directly intervene in the situation, attempting to stop the source of his anger. B. Verbally express his disapproval and offer unsolicited advice. C. Leave the scene to avoid any potential conflict. D. Secretly admire the new owner's determination despite their mistakes. 28. What meaning is closest to the word whoop in the context of the sentence? It's not that I care or whoop what becomes of you. A. A significant amount. B. A desperate plea for help. C. Insignificant trifle. E. A serious threat or warning. 29. How would you best describe the advice given by the onlooker in the passage? I just want to tell you, you can help them a mighty lot by breaking out that sled. A. A hopeful suggestion that could potentially solve the problem. B. A harsh assessment of reality despite a desire to genuinely assist. C. A sarcastic remark meant to belittle the new owner's capabilities. D. A secret plan to take advantage of the new owner's inexperience. 30. What is the cause of the problem described in the following passage? She shook her head decidedly, and Charles and Hal put the last odds and ends on top the mountainous load, and of course the dogs can hike along all day with that contraption behind them, affirmed a second of the men. A. Mercedes' disapproval of their packing methods. B. The dog's sudden refusal to cooperate. C. The overloaded sled. C. The lack of proper harnesses for the dog.